What's going on, guys? Biker Dave here. If you've been following the previous videos, I've been working on my uncle's 1981 Honda CB650 that he has had since 1983, and it has been parked since about 2007. We got a couple of videos of us cranking it up for the first time. You know, it actually amazingly ran quite well considering how long it's been parked and whatnot, but we noticed a couple of leaks. And this is the first time that I have ever dove into a four-cylinder motorcycle that has 4 carburetors, as you see here. These are the Keihin VB44. It's a VB series carburetor, 44 millimeter. And they are finicky little kittens. These things are finicky to work on. They are finicky to set up properly, just to make them function properly, as in, these are the choke flaps right here, because the choke cable comes right here, and then when you set the choke, it closes right here. I was having a dickens of a time just getting to that to function properly. And let me tell you some things that I found that might help some of you in the future, because I know some people are always looking for help when working with these older street bikes. All right, a few things that you must take note of, and tools that you should have. Definitely have a magnetic screwdriver. I also like to use a T-handle screwdriver, but magnetic definitely helps you because a lot of the screws are kind of small and they'll just drop and fall where you don't want them to. So if you have a magnetic screwdriver, it's easier for you to guide them into certain areas like those right up there. It's just easier if you have a magnetic screwdriver. All right, you'll also need an assortment of picks. These are just generic mechanics picks, because some of this little springs and things, you got this spring right here that's just difficult to deal with if you're trying to just use your hands or a screwdriver. So you need something that has a little hook end on it so that you can pull on it and get it moving where you want it. You'll need some needle nose pliers, because some of these vent hoses, notice they're right back there, those are kind of difficult to get in position because they are necessary for vacuum. Also, these guys here, kind of difficult to deal with. You need an assortment of tools, basically, all kinds of tools. As far as taking them apart, it's not that big a deal. Most of it's pretty obvious. You have to take this top rail off, and then there's a rail in the back also. You have to remove all that. I mean, there's plenty of videos on how to break these carburetors apart, even to rebuild them, to replace gaskets and O-rings and things, and all that stuff is pretty readily available online. Even the imported Chinese stuff, you're able to get it online pretty much anywhere. Now, if you want the really nice stuff, you're going to pay a lot more, for the Japanese-made rebuild kits. Or if you want OEM parts for any of this stuff, if you can even find it, it is expensive. Holy crap. But a couple things that I noticed that were kind of tricky to deal with. Get my lights set up here. All right. This guy, you'll have 2 little rubber T's right here. Now, I just found this out today. You can actually buy those, from Europe for a good $60 a piece. And there's 2 of them on this bike. You got, a T right there that goes up into a hose that goes into your major vacuum line, that comes from the bike. But if yours is all dry rotted and cracked and whatnot all in there, you need to replace it. And I was unable to find it, at least locally, so I had to create mine. I got a previous video on how I did that. As far as removing the caps and everything, it's pretty straightforward. You know, you got Phillips head screws, and you can buy replacement Phillips heads for just about everything on this carb set. You can get those on Amazon. You know, they make it look much better if you see across the top there. Looks lovely. An area that can also leak is this copper or brass metal T. I've heard people have experience with that leaking down there. Now, I haven't run any fuel through this yet other than what we saw when we initially ran the bike, and we think the leakage was coming from these O-rings. You got O-rings here, you got O-rings back there, you got O-rings in between all these tubes that you see, 2 for each pair of carbs. 2, 4, 6. You'll have 6 total as far as, you know, joining the carbs together. All right, and you can get you can get in the carb kit that you buy for these. It'll have plenty of O-rings, but I also recommend that you buy a universal assortment of O-rings. You can get those, you know, in a lot set, both American size and metric size. I recommend you get both of those, and I'll put links down below where you can get that. And I'll put links for everything that I've found that may help you working with these. But in the end, some other things that are kind of tricky. These actuators right here, the washer needs to be split apart. You've got 2 washers in there that need to be split apart so that they can ride on the little mechanism. Hard for me to explain what that is. But if you're trying to put this in place, hold on. Hard for me to explain what that is, but when you're assembling this here, there's a spring and washer set on a little post. You need to spread those 2 washers apart and then slide it on the little fork-shaped hook that's there. You know, it joins all these together basically so that they'll all function when you. This will be where the throttle cable goes. Okay, it'll join all those together. Make sure you split all those 2 washers apart to slide them on. You know, there was no clear information on that for me, so I just learned it watching a ton of other videos and whatnot, so that was a tricky one for me. Around to the other side here. Yeah, inside right here, like these adjusters, you know, these are how you will sync up the opening of the butterflies. You want them to all be synced the same so that they're opening at the same instant and exposing these those little holes in there. You see they're on top of a little hole on each one. They need to be as identical as you can, and that's where these adjusters come into play. Those guys, that guy there. There's plenty of videos about doing that also, and I have not set those yet. Because I've just now gotten to a point where I feel comfortable that this thing is back together. Oh, and don't forget, you got these springs that sort of separate the carbs. Another one. In fact, you'll see me right here. See this spring right here. There's supposed to be another one between these 2 guys here, and I have missed that, so I need to put that back in. It keeps them separated. It keeps, you know, some tension on the carbs to keep them separate. So, you know, not a big panic on that, but you can put that in by squeezing it, you know, with some needle nose and just sort of force it in there. You might have to loosen all this up just a little bit to get that going. But yeah, I'm definitely no expert on this set of carbs. You know, getting to the float bowl regions are pretty self-explanatory. You know, you got gaskets on each one. You got jets in there. You know, you can replace all the jets. These are fuel mixture screws that'll have a tiny washer and a tiny O-ring inside there. Make sure you get those out. You may have to use a modified pick, something really tiny. It needs to be a tiny bending pick, maybe a paper clip or something that has a teeny little bend in the end so that you can fish out the hardware that's inside these mixture screw cavities. Also, you got your accelerator pump right there. That's pretty self-explanatory, but make sure that you account for all hardware and O-rings and gaskets, and then the little boot. There's a little boot right under there. Field focus. There it is. See that boot right there? Make sure you account for that too. I mean, it really doesn't do anything other than kind of keep dirt and whatnot from getting into this cavity. That's the only reason I can see it being there. But yeah, I didn't take everything else apart as far as the throttle actuator springs and everything. I was mainly working with the choke mechanism. All these joints, you know, here I was disconnecting those and replacing O-rings on those. They're a little tricky to get to. You need a pick also to get the O-rings off, or you can use a razor blade to get the old O-ring off. And then a little bit of lubrication is helpful. Maybe a tiny bit of saliva or even a little bit of grease, you know, on the new O-rings to help everything slide together in there. You know, if you've had these same carburetors, you know as well as I do, if you're not very experienced with them, they can kick your butt on, you know, on setting them up, assembly properly, functioning properly, all of that. You know, it can be tricky. There are plenty of other videos about that, but notice this right here. The choke butterflies. Oh my God, I've messed with that for 2 days straight. And it came down to this rod right here seemed to be slightly bent. I mean, it's very slight, but it was catching in there. I also, you know, took the rod out and did some 500 grit and 1000 grit sandpaper and sanded, you know, in a cylindrical pattern. Sanded the entire thing very smooth, because this side would catch on me all the time. You know, no matter how good the other one moved, this one would catch every single time. Totally frustrating. I mean, pissed me off, quite honestly, because it was so simple and it would just not function right. And this spring right here is very difficult to deal with. The little one, this little skinny guy right here, make sure it is in place properly. There are other videos about doing that. Make sure it's not kinked or bent or overlapping too badly. You know, make sure it's very even going all through there. Also, underneath, that spring, make sure that it's good underneath there. I know it's hard for you to see this, but that entire little coil of the, it's called the, it's referred to as a relief spring or torsion spring. You know, it's the little skinny one, the little itty bitty one right there. That little skinny guy right there. Do not mangle it. Don't mess it up, because it's very hard to get, you know, hard to replace. Like most other stuff on this carburetor, some of it is difficult to replace. Anyway, I know I'm rambling a bit, but I just wanted to let you guys know that these are finicky to deal with, finicky to assemble. You have to do everything step by step, you know, for it to just operate properly. Now, as far as tuning it, that shouldn't be that bad. You know, as long as there's no leaks and the bike runs okay. And like I said, there are other videos about that. But I just wanted to show you, you know, some of my experience so far of dealing with this Keihin VB44 setup. Anywho, we got tons of stuff on our YouTube channel. What's going on? Make sure you look at our eBay. We got an eBay store called Horsepower House. We got Amazon store selling motorcycle-related parts and specialty tools, flywheel pullers, fork boots, magnetic drain plugs, you know, specialty sockets, all kind of cool stuff. So check all that out. But if you look at our, we got over 1,500 videos on our channel. So check all that out. You might see some things that'll help you for working on motorcycles, cars, ATVs, dirt bikes, all kind of cool stuff. Check it all out. And if our video helps you if any YouTube video helps you solve a problem or not make the same mistake, make sure you look for the thanks button underneath the video screen and shoot them a donation, no matter if it's mine or any monetized channel's video. Anyway, that's it. Boy, I've been sweating it out on this one. Anyway, that's it. Y'all have a great day. We'll see y'all later.